should also be made a party to this. This was a suggestion that was given by one of the judges, whereas on the other hand, the enforcement directorate lawyers said that no one who is involved in this entire crime would be let go of, and hence Arvind Kejriwal being summoned and the ED already in some way or the other preparing to make Aam Aadmi Party a member or a party in this entire case is definitely being seen as mounting trouble for the party. Now, once again, if at all Arvind Kejriwal goes ahead and joins the investigation on the 2nd of November, it is going to be very, very interesting to see if at all what kind of questions are being asked to Arvind Kejriwal by the interrogators, because yes, there are allegations that have been made in which it has very, very clearly been stated by the people who have been alleged of the crime and by the people who have turned approver in this entire crime that yes, Arvind Kejriwal knew about the entire process in the manner in which this entire policy was being formed. In fact, Arvind Kejriwal was also privy to the information as to how much cut or how much share is to be distributed amongst the stakeholders in this entire matter, and hence Arvind Kejriwal being present in the investigation is a very, very important step that has been taken by the Enforcement Directorate today.
Right, we're also joined by Arunima on the broadcast. Arunima, we're also learning, and this is something that you're putting out as well, that top sources say that new revelations have come to light after Sanjay Singh's questioning, and the Chief Minister will be asked to clarify these new leads which have emerged from the questioning. Give us more details.
So this is not the first time that Chief Minister has been asked by both agencies. He's earlier faced both the CBI and the ED, and that was when Manish Sisodia was at the center of the investigation. There were a lot of revelations about Manish Sisodia back then. Where are the files, for example? Why are the important cabinet notes missing? And Arvind Kejriwal then, as per sources, had said that he was not aware. Whatever was done at the behest of then Excise Minister, which was Manish Sisodia. Subsequently, Sanjay Singh's arrest has led to fresh details. Multiple charge sheets have been filed by ED in this case, and new set of investigation, new set of leads have led them to Sanjay Singh. Sanjay Singh has been confronted with witnesses, with approvers who have confirmed how this money trail went up. At least 2 crore rupees is what the ED had confirmed in their remand notes that led up to Sanjay Singh. Was Arvind Kejriwal aware? Did Arvind Kejriwal actually say that we need to raise 100 crores as far as election campaign is concerned? Was this 100 crore rupees raised via the change in excise policy? All kinds of allegations have been made. There have been acceptance by the ED, even in the Supreme Court, that they are taking legal opinion to see whether Aam Aadmi Party itself can be named as a beneficiary. Who is the convener of the Aam Aadmi Party? Arvind Kejriwal. So there too, is there a liability which is made out? So there are a number of questions that the investigating team of the Enforcement Directorate now have for the national convener of the Aam Aadmi Party, as well as for the Chief Minister of Delhi, and that's why he has been asked to come on 2nd of November. Whether he appears or he seeks more time, that remains to be seen.
Right, we're also joined by Shankar Anand on the broadcast to get more details as this big twister has emerged in the Liquorgate scandal, ladies and gentlemen. Shankar Anand, और क्या डिटेल्स है आपके पास? हमें जानकारी मिल रही है कि चीफ मिनिस्टर अरविंद केजरीवाल को एनफोर्समेंट डायरेक्टरेट के बिफोर अपीयर होना है 11 बजे नवंबर 2 को।
निश्चित तौर पर देखिए, इस वक्त की बड़ी खबर कही जा सकती है कि दिल्ली सरकार के मुख्यमंत्री अरविंद केजरीवाल को पूछताछ का समन भेजा गया है और पूछताछ के लिए 2 नवंबर को ईडी मुख्यालय में बुलाया गया है। और जिस तरह से मामले की अगर बात करें, देखिए दिल्ली सरकार की आबकारी नीति मामले में जिस तरह से फर्जीवाड़ा किया गया और इस मामले में तकरीबन 2 दर्जन से ज्यादा लोगों से भी इस मामले में पूछताछ की जा चुकी है और इस मामले में कई आरोपियों की गिरफ्तारी भी हो चुकी है। लेकिन जैसे जैसे तफ्तीश का दायरा बढ़ता जा रहा है, इन्वेस्टिगेशन के दौरान में कई महत्वपूर्ण जानकारियों को, सबूतों को इकट्ठा किया गया और उसी के आधार पर दिल्ली के मुख्यमंत्री अरविंद केजरीवाल को पूछताछ का समन भेजा गया है। हालांकि पिछले अगर कुछ महत्वपूर्ण बयानों की अगर बात करें तो मनीष सिसोदिया के खिलाफ जिस तरह से बकायदा केस रजिस्टर्ड हुआ था और मनीष सिसोदिया का स्टेटमेंट जो है वो भी बेहद महत्वपूर्ण है। और इसके साथ ही बाद में जिस तरह से संजय सिंह का स्टेटमेंट दर्ज हुआ और इसके साथ साथ कई ऐसे आरोपी जो अब सरकारी गवाह बन चुके हैं, वो बयान जो है निश्चित तौर पे वो अरविंद केजरीवाल के लिए मुश्किलें बढ़ा सकता है, क्योंकि बहुत सारे ऐसे जो लोग जो आम आदमी पार्टी के कई नेताओं के बेहद करीब में रहा है और यहां तक कि कहा जा सकता है कि मुख्यमंत्री के आवास के आसपास जो कई महत्वपूर्ण बैठक होते थे उस बैठक के वो हिस्सा होते थे और उसका जब स्टेटमेंट दर्ज हुआ और बाद में वो सरकारी गवाह बन गया तो वो जो स्टेटमेंट है वो निश्चित तौर पर अरविंद केजरीवाल के लिए मुश्किलें खड़ी कर सकती है। लेकिन अब देखना लाजमी होगा कि 2 नवंबर नवंबर को जब अरविंद केजरीवाल पूछताछ की प्रक्रिया में हिस्सा लेने के लिए ईडी मुख्यालय आएंगे या नहीं आएंगे, और अगर आते हैं तो वो सवालों की जो फहरिस्त है लगभग वो तैयार हो चुकी है। 2 दिन पहले ही उस सवालों की फहरिस्त तैयार कर ली गई थी और इस वक्त में ईडी के वरिष्ठ सूत्र जो हमारे हैं,
that is the latest that's coming in when it comes to the liquor scandal, ladies and gentlemen, where Arvind Kejriwal will now appear before the Enforcement Directorate on the 2nd of November. That's all we have to pack it on the show. Thank you for watching.
इजराइल की सेना गाजा के अंदर घुस चुकी है, तो दूसरी तरफ इजराइल गाजा बॉर्डर से, इजराइल की सीमा के अंदर से लगातार तोप और टैंक कवर फायरिंग भी दे रहे हैं जमीनी आर्मी को। इस वक्त हमारे पीछे आप लगातार देख सकते हैं तोप और टैंक के धमाके की आवाज आ रही है। और इस वक्त सामने में गाजा के अंदर एक बड़ा हमला किया है, तोप और टैंक से यह हमला किया गया है। और आप देख सकते हैं धुएं का गुबार इस वक्त आसमान में, सूर्य की रोशनी के नीचे आपको एक बड़ा धुएं का गुबार दिख रहा है। और हमें जो जानकारी दी गई है ये सजैया है, लगातार तोप टैंक की आवाज आपको मिल रही होगी, क्योंकि गाजा के अंदर इजराइल की आर्मी घुस चुकी है, लेकिन अभी भी जमीन से ही तोप और टैंक से ही हमले हो रहे हैं इजराइल की सीमा के अंदर से, ताकि जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है गाजा के अंदर हमास का, उसको क्लियर किया जा सके। कैमरा पर्सन करम आपको लगातार वो थिक धुआं दिखा रहे, जो मोटा धुआं है वो आपको दिखा रहे, जो कोहरे की चादर की तरह पूरा आसमान में फैल गया। आपसे महज कुछ देर पहले ये हमला किया गया और लगातार धमाके की आवाज आपको मिल रही होगी। दूसरी तरफ इधर भी आपको दिखा दे, थोड़ा सा कैमरा राइट हैंड की तरफ पैन करके, हल्का धुआं वहां भी आपको दिख रहा है, वहां आधे घंटे पहले हमला किया गया था। और
Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. For days, we've been talking about the Israel-Hamas war spilling over. Tonight, we can tell you it is. The fire has spread to faraway Russia. An airport came under attack in Dagestan. An angry mob forced its way to the runway, looking for Jews they wanted to punish. The pictures are quite dramatic. We'll bring you the full story. Meanwhile, Israel has begun the ground offensive, but the strategy remains unclear. The tanks are rolling in, the airstrikes continue, and the diplomatic wars are also intensifying. Erdogan has now called Netanyahu a terrorist. India has abstained on a resolution calling for a ceasefire. We'll break it down for you. In Bangladesh, political violence ahead of the election. In the Maldives, a major debt crisis looms, but the new president wants to focus on his India Out campaign. In West Africa, a new threat looms. The European Union is giving some countries armored tanks to fight it. And the Earth's core is leaking. Should you be concerned? We'll tell you all about it. The headlines first. The fight over Crimea continues. Russia says it has shot down 8 Ukrainian Storm Shadow missiles fired at Crimea, but Kiev claims to have struck Moscow's air defense system in the peninsula. In 2014, Russia annexed Crimea from Ukraine. The free trade deal between the European Union and Australia collapses. The talks have been on since 2018. The roadblock is over market access for Australian farm products. The EU is also keen to sign trade deals with major world markets like India and Latin America. China holds major financial conference to get its economy back on track. President Xi Jinping is meeting with the country's top bankers in Beijing. It's a closed-door two-day conference which happens only twice in a decade. Taiwan's two leading opposition parties joined hands for the January parliamentary elections, but they stopped short of coming together for a presidential ticket. Vice President Lai Ching-te, who is from the ruling party, is currently the front-runner. Pakistan's Cricket World Cup team has not been paid for 5 months. That's the claim made by its former captain Rashid Latif. The Pakistan Cricket Board and the team have not responded to the allegations. This comes amid Pakistan's dismal performance at the ongoing World Cup. And FIFA bans Luis Rubiales for 3 years. The former Spanish football chief was suspended after he forcibly kissed Jenny Hermoso. In September, Rubiales resigned as the head of the Spanish Football Federation.
На борт, быстро все на борт.
Did you see that? The war in Israel has reached Russia. As the Israeli forces escalate attacks on Hamas, Israelis abroad find themselves at risk. On Sunday, tensions exploded in a Russian region. A mob stormed an international airport. This happened in Dagestan. It is a Muslim-majority region in Russia. People here are angry with Israel. And yesterday, this anger exploded. The locals received some reports. They said a flight from Tel Aviv was landing in Dagestan, and this report unleashed chaos. In no time, a mob showed up at the airport. They broke past security checks. They were looking for Jewish passengers. They asked the airport staff, and I'm quoting, "Where are the Jews?" And soon this mob reached the runway. They surrounded the planes. They started shouting, "Allahu Akbar."
Allahu Akbar!
MashaAllah.
It was a scary and dangerous situation. Some passengers were leaving their planes. When they saw the mob, they rushed back inside, but the mob was out of control. They broke glass doors. They stopped passengers and asked for their passports. Some people managed to get out safely, but outside the airport, more protesters were waiting for them, presumably part of the same mob. And what were they doing outside? They were stopping cars. They were checking passports of passengers, basically looking for Jews.
They hit with their hands and feet to break through the fence and grill. Here are our cobblestones which they hurled at us. They have also started to crash everything in custom offices and the booths. We are building a spiritual center together. Some of them climbed on top. They destroyed things on the first floor.
Thankfully, there were no casualties. No Israelis were injured, but this was a targeted attack, and it was not the only one. On Saturday, a hotel was overrun in Dagestan. People heard that there were Jews at this hotel, and they threw stones at the hotel's windows. As it turned out, there were no Jews inside. After this, the hotel put up a sign. This is what it said: "Entrance strictly forbidden to citizens of Israel." And in the bracket, it says Jews. Now, Israel has expressed concerns over these events. It has asked Russia to protect Israelis and Jews. But the fire is clearly spreading. Not far from Dagestan is a place called Kabardino-Balkaria. It has a Jewish center that was set ablaze. Now, both Dagestan and Kabardino-Balkaria are Russian republics. There are 22 such republics. They're all part of Russia, but they enjoy some special rights. They have a high degree of autonomy. They can make their own laws, and often they're dominated by certain groups. Take the case of Dagestan. The name itself means the land of mountains. People from 40 different ethnicities live in Dagestan, but the region is dominated by Muslims. More than 3 million people live in Dagestan. Going by one claim, more than 80% of them are Muslims, and a majority of these residents are Sunni Muslims. In fact, Islam has flourished in Dagestan. This region has some 3,000 mosques, Islamic institutes and schools. It also has a volatile past. From 2007 to 2017, Dagestan witnessed an Islamist insurgency. A range of militant groups was involved. Russian forces fought these groups and eliminated them. But in 2022, there was fresh unrest. Clashes broke out again, this time over the war in Ukraine. Dagestan had the highest number of casualties in the war, the highest number from Russia. Remember, Putin had called up army reservists to fight the war, and this included people from Dagestan. Apparently, they died in larger numbers in the war. Most of the casualties incurred by Russia were from Dagestan. Reports say in 2022, more than 300 soldiers, Russian soldiers from Dagestan died. This is 10 times the death toll of soldiers from Moscow, and this too led to protests. So the region has a volatile history, and now tensions have broken out again. Israel's operations in Gaza have sparked unrest. Pictures and videos of destroyed buildings, dead bodies and displaced victims have traveled to Dagestan. They've incited angry mobs like this one. Some of them were carrying the Palestinian flag. They wanted to punish Israel for attacking Gaza. And this is a new security nightmare for Moscow. It wants to avoid fresh trouble. So Russia is blaming these recent events on outside influence.
President Putin yesterday evening and this morning received and is receiving detailed reports on the situation in the Republic of Dagestan from the FSB, the Russian National Guard, and from the head of the Republic. It is well known and obvious that yesterday's events around the airport are largely the result of outside interference, including outside information influence.
Putin has been briefed. He's walking a fine line. So far, he has taken a pro-Palestinian position. Last week, he invited the Hamas for talks at the Kremlin. Both sides discussed the current conflict and the status of hostages. Among them are 8 Russian hostages. Moscow has given Hamas a list asking for their release. But will Hamas comply? They've called Russia their quote-unquote closest friend. They say they're looking for the Russian hostages and will release them soon. What about their ties with Israel? Russia's ties with Israel. Putin and Netanyahu used to be friends, but the war in Ukraine has strained the ties. Israel supported the Ukrainian forces, and that led to a rift. Now, as Israel intensifies attacks on Hamas, the consequences may be felt as far away as Russia. It's week 4 of the Israel-Hamas war, and the ground invasion has begun, but not how you'd expect it to. There is no all-out invasion of the Gaza Strip. Instead, it's a sustained raid, a prolonged ground incursion. And how much firepower are we talking about? Well, that's the thing. Israel has not revealed its plans or objectives or numbers. All we know is this. Israeli tanks and soldiers are currently inside Gaza. They're fighting the Hamas in the north. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called it the second phase of the war.
Yesterday evening, more of our ground forces entered into Gaza in the development of the stronghold of evil. This is the second phase of the war, whose goals are clear: the destruction of the military and governmental capabilities of Hamas and the return of the hostages home.
Hamas has also confirmed this. They're talking about quote-unquote heavy fighting in the north. Just one difference, though. Israel is not hyping things up this time. They usually document their attacks and raids. They make videos. They release them. They also release footage of how the offensive is going on, but not this time. The ground operations have been closely guarded. Most of the deployments are happening at night. As for footage, this is the only clip we have. Tanks and soldiers on the move, location and date unknown. Reports say the ground operations are focused on 2 things right now. One is the Hamas tunnels. There is a massive underground network below Gaza. Experts say it could be Hamas's secret weapon. So the IDF is trying to neutralize that. The second area of focus is the Gaza city. It's the largest Palestinian city. also a major power center of the Hamas. Tanks have been spotted on the outskirts of Gaza City. The plan could be to encircle it. And the ground operation does not mean the air raids have stopped. In fact, they have escalated. Israel's Air Force claims to have hit 600 targets in 24 hours. And some of them are controversial. Like the Al-Azhar University, it is located in Gaza City. Israel says the campus was hosting Hamas anti-tank missiles. If true, they could have hampered the ground invasion. So what did the IDF do? Their soldiers guided fighter jets to the university. It was later bombed. Now, tracking all this has become tough because over the weekend, Gaza lost connectivity. The internet was knocked out. No phone calls, no video messages, no information. By Sunday evening, the connections were slowly restored. Last we checked, things are getting better. The IDF was asked about the internet blackout. This was their response.
We do what we have to do to secure our forces for as long as we must, temporary or permanent, as much as we need to, and we will not say anything further about that.
All indications are Gaza City will be targeted. The IDF has already struck a university there. They're also asking hospitals to evacuate, like the Al-Quds Hospital and the Al-Shifa Hospital. Both are home to hundreds of civilians. So the IDF is asking them to leave to move further down south. But many Gazans have refused to do so. They say Israeli threats will not work.
Now the Israelis say that they will hit Al-Shifa. Whether they do this or not, this is what is normal for us now. The threats do not frighten us. Let them launch airstrikes as much as they want. We are all martyrs at the end.
So that's Gaza, the southern front. Israel is engaging on the north as well, with Lebanon and Syria. They have struck military targets in Syria. They're also facing off with Lebanon's Hezbollah. Just look at these pictures. They show Israel shooting down Hezbollah rockets. Such exchanges have become quite common in the last 20 days. Hezbollah claims to have carried out 84 attacks along the border. They've also lost 46 fighters so far. The IDF has lost around 7 soldiers. They've stationed tanks and soldiers in the north. The idea here is to deter the Hezbollah. Chances are they will see the ground operation as an opportunity. They may think Israel is busy with Gaza, so it's the perfect chance to open a second front. The Israeli army is trying to prevent that. But let's come back to Gaza for the moment. What is Israel's strategy in Gaza? For 3 weeks, we expected a full-blown invasion. But this operation is not full-blown. It signals limited intent. The question is why? And the answer is 2 possibilities. 1, Israel has decided to shelve the full-scale invasion. Instead, this is their new plan, targeted raids. Or possibility number 2, this is a sneak peek, a precursor to the major invasion. Either way, it signals a change in Netanyahu's thinking. And what could have caused that change in thinking? For starters, his allies were not on board. Europe was against a full-scale invasion. The US wanted a humanitarian pause. In public, Israel rejected both. But in private, maybe they have reservations too. Also, the public sentiment in Israel is not favorable. A big reason for that is the hostages. They're still with Hamas. Hamas holds more than 200 people. Their families want Israel to delay the invasion.
We know when we see that they are speaking about 2 goals for this operation. One is to bring all the hostages, and the second is to destroy Hamas. And as her boyfriend, I truly afraid that these 2 goals is like in conflict with each other. They cannot achieve together.
We are very worried about our dearest, that they are there. And we don't know that if the whole military operation take all these hostages under consideration, that nobody will be injured.
So targeted raids could be the answer. Less danger to Israeli troops, less casualties compared to a full-scale assault, and still a blow for Hamas. But can such raids overthrow their rule? That is the big question. Netanyahu said Hamas cannot be allowed to rule Gaza anymore. He promised to destroy them, and that may not be possible with targeted raids. In fact, even with a full invasion, removing Hamas may not be possible because Hamas has supporters and backers across the region, like in Turkey. Their president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, has given Hamas a clean chit. He said Hamas is not a terror group. But guess who is? According to Erdogan, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is the terrorist.
Just as Netanyahu is a terrorist, the opposition says Hamas is a terrorist organization as well. Shame on you. Israel, we will declare you as a war criminal to the world. Right now, we are making preparations for this.